You're in the train the trainers session. If you're not expecting that, you're in the wrong place.
Have you got the laptop?
Yeah, it's over there.
I want to introduce to Derek and Alison Hughes. They're going to tell us about training the trainers. It's delivered by a team of 4 qualified teachers who've pooled their experience on using innovative and exciting methods to develop topics to students who may not have any previous experience in that particular field. This session will first introduce you to the train the trainers, I always get that wrong, course, and its contents. Then we will introduce you to folk that have been on the course and others who have organised one, so that you can see and ask about the benefits for yourselves. Over to Derek first.
Yep, okay. Don't normally get this on Train the Trainers. Right, good morning everyone, and nice to see some of the people that have actually attended in the past. You're okay to stand up and give a little bit of a resume of what it did? Yeah, great. Excellent. We've got 3 of the team members. Dave was supposed to be with us this morning, but he hasn't turned up yet, but that's not unusual. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at the Train the Trainers course. Okay, we're going to have a look at just a little bit of the history of it. Going to have a look at what's actually on the course. We're just going to quickly take you through the course. And then we've got the opportunity to ask any questions at the end of it. Okay, so the Train the Trainers that we deliver now is a lot different to the Train the Trainers that was initially set up many years ago. The original Train the Trainers course was more to do with actually teaching people the actual syllabus that actually needed to be delivered. When we were invited to set up the new Train the Trainers, our remit was, rather than to actually teach people what syllabus and how to deliver the technical side of things, rather it was how to actually deliver properly so that our delegates, our students, can understand what we're saying. So we're all fully qualified teachers, and we all are used to delivering this on a daily basis. So what we did, the original team, Paul was asked to head up the team. The original sort of was to develop a course which would help trainers improve their delivery. Okay, how to deliver engaging lessons. Okay, also to give some tips and tricks of the trade. Okay, how do we deal with the student who won't shut up? How do we deal with the student that's maybe finding this topic rather difficult to grasp, etc., etc. So the second thing, our aim was to actually develop or give the delegates who were attending some tips and tricks of the trade. We felt it was important that people who are delivering amateur radio training actually understand how people learn, because at the end of the day we need to match our training to the delegates we're delivering it to. So there's no point in delivering something using all PowerPoints if the person we're delivering to obviously is blind. Okay, so I mean that's an extreme example, but at the end of the day it's really, really important that we understand who our delegates are so that we can actually tailor our courses to it. So that was one of the things we looked at as well. We also put in some information guidance on how to run practicals. And at the end of the day, the course was there to develop the confidence of amateur radio trainers at the end of the day, okay, and give them some confidence to be able to go out there and do it, okay. Now, as I said before, the course was never designed to teach amateur radio syllabus, and we're very, very careful. We avoid syllabus and things like that at all costs at the end of the day, because that's not what our remit is. Our remit is to help you guys actually deliver better lessons, and that's really at the end of the day what we're all about. Okay, it's never been a vehicle to discuss the politics of the syllabus, so we don't get involved in any discussions or arguments about that, about what might happen, what if we don't do that, etc. And it's not to discuss any complaints or thoughts people have on whether we should run certain practicals and things like that. We're purely there at the end of the day to give you the benefit of some of our experience as practicing teachers. Paul, David and I actually developed the syllabus. And they were the units that we've put into it. So we break the day down and we do roughly about 45 minutes to an hour on each of the sessions. And one of the things you will notice that's in there is a teaching workshop. And that teaching workshop has been really inspiring, even to us four. We've seen things on this course from the workshop that we'd never seen before. And it's really inspired us. And I actually use some of the stuff that I learn off the delegates on these courses in my own courses at Southport College. So it's a two-way thing at the end of the day. We learn off the delegates and hopefully the delegates learn off us. So we're not there just to spout to people, we're there to learn as well. Okay. The first pilot ran in Tamworth in 2015. You were at Tamworth? Norwich, Tamworth, yeah, okay. So we've got somebody here that was from the very first one that we ran. Trust me, if you go on one today, it's nothing like the one we delivered at Tamworth.
It'll be in November because we're hosting a workshop amateur radio.
Yeah.
We're hosting the train, so I'm going to be there.
Excellent. It'd be really interesting to see what you think about the course as it's delivered now, because it's not, and that's one of the important things about Train the Trainers. It gets better. Well, we do. It gets better. It develops. That's it. Yeah, yeah. Since then, we've been all over the country. We've been to Northern Ireland, we've been to the West Country, we've been to the North East, we've been to the South East. Sorry? Sorry? Ooh, dear. Spell checker didn't pick that up. Yeah, yeah. So we've been everywhere. However, there are some areas of the country that we haven't been to yet, which is a bit disappointing for me because we come from the northwest of England and we haven't actually had a course in the northwest of England yet. So there are areas of the country that we haven't been to. So after we've delivered this, one of the challenges is, can we deliver one of these courses in your area? Okay, but hopefully you'll see the benefit of it and you'll be able to answer that yes and maybe go back enthused and say, we want one in our area. Alison joined us later in 2015. And Alison's a primary school teacher. Now you might think, what's a primary school teacher doing delivering amateur radio courses? But at the end of the day, Alison's got a unique set of skills because she's also a special needs teacher as well. She's a specialist in special needs.
And I add the glamour. Come on!
I wasn't going to say that. Yes, dear.
You were supposed to say that before.
But Alison does have a special set of skills in this special needs area, which helps us when we've got delegates who ask questions about special needs. It means we've actually got a specialist on the team that can actually answer those questions, which is great because
Or try to.
It's great because we've got actually specialists from lots of different areas. We've got higher education, we've got further education, we've got special needs. David is a commercial trainer. So we've actually got lots and lots of wide experience between us. We had the pleasure this year in welcoming somebody from the Icelandic Amateur Radio Society who'd come over to have a look at what this Trainers was about. What we actually wanted to do was actually have it to Iceland and deliver it over there. Still might be on the cards, who knows. But to date we've had more than 200 candidates attend Train the Trainers, and hopefully, I'll read something out a little bit later, hopefully the delegates, I'm pretty sure the delegates who've actually been on the course have been really, really enthused by the course. Okay, but I'm going to read something out later on.
In fact, one of them joined, didn't they?
Yeah, in fact, actually, one of them was so enthused, he actually joined the Trainers team. I forgot to mention, actually. Steve, joined earlier this year, and he's done a couple of courses now. He's from Devon, which is great because it takes a bit of the pressure off us. We're from the northwest, Dave's from the northeast, Paul's from down south, and it's really difficult trying to cover all four corners of the country when we all live in different parts of the country. So Steve joining is now from the southwest, so we've almost got one person in each corner of the country now. We still need some more volunteers though, that would be really handy. But so far we've had over 200 happy candidates. Right.
Right, so the first part of the course that we do in the morning is all about how students learn. And firstly, we talk about the factors in creating a good learning environment, like, for example, making sure that the seats are comfortable and all that and you're welcomed in and that sort of thing. Then we've put, in order to teach effectively, you need to understand that there is more than one way of learning. If you think about it, in the Victorian times, it was just sometimes in higher education, it's just one lecturer speaking and everybody else taking notes. But there are other ways of doing that. Kinesthetic, which is doing stuff, which a lot of radio amateurs are very good at. So don't bother. You say that you don't use the manual. You just get on and start it. Other people are more visual. I think I'm more visual. So when I'm looking at the IKEA stuff, I look at the pictures and help.
Me, I just put the shelves on the bookcase back to front. So we've got a bookcase in our bedroom, which is great. It's fantastic. But the top shelf has got chipboard facing out because I put the shelf on the wrong way around.
I don't tell you off for that though, do I? But as we put there, you can have more than one learning type there. So now here's which way? This one. Right. So they take part. The delegates take part in a little fun quiz questionnaire to find out what sort of learning style they are, because we all have different learning styles. And I should say, I'm sorry, but today it's just a lecture. So we aren't considering every learning style today. And also, importantly, delegates are encouraged to consider if you've got people on the course who need have got a special learning need or requirement. So we talk about perhaps catering for dyslexia people with physical disabilities, that sort of thing. People that are perhaps slightly slower at learning than others, and that can include me sometimes, especially when it comes to more technical stuff.
I'm cooking.
Thank you, Derek. Right, it's your part now.
The second unit that we deliver is this alternative delivery methods. Now, obviously, a lot of us will have grown up with what we class as the old talk and chalk method, where the teacher stood at the front of the classroom, wrote a load of stuff down on a board, we all copied it down really diligently, went back, supposedly wrote our notes up in more fuller form, and then used that to revise from when we came to the exam. Over the time, it's become obvious that that type of learning doesn't obviously suit everybody. So what we do is we look at lots of the different ways and lots of different things that we can do to present our material, our amateur radio syllabus, to engage people. And that's one of the things that we're looking for. We're looking to actually engage our students in the lesson, rather than being passively sitting there, soaking in information, and us hoping that they remember it. So the aim of this little part of the course is to hopefully provide delegates, with a toolbox of effective methods they can go back and use. Now, one of the things I find really restrictive standing here is I like to walk around the classroom, and you can see I'm just chomping at the bit here to get moving. Right. So give candidates the knowledge to make informed choices about the suitability. So not only give you this toolbox, but hopefully we show you how to work out which of these tools you should be using during your lesson for different students. And one of the things you find is you could deliver the same lesson 6 different times and deliver it in 6 different ways. And that's all governed by the people that you're actually delivering it to. So this toolbox will help you to actually determine which way you're going to deliver your lesson. So things like, you can't get away from lectures, sometimes lectures are the most important things at the end of the day, but the secret is to keep them short, 15 minutes, that's about as long as people will sit and listen to. Unfortunately, you guys are here for 45, but we look at other things as well, so we look at things like quizzes. How can we use quizzes to actually engage our students. Okay, sometimes quizzes, we can use it to actually test our students to see what they actually know, so that we can actually determine where we start our lesson. Other times we can use quizzes to test our students at the end of the session to see what they've actually learned. Sometimes we use quizzes though to actually stimulate debate and question. Okay, let's have a quiz. Let's get the answers down, let's go through the answers, and then let's have a look at that in a bit more detail and get some debate and get people actually bouncing off each other. That's really, really important in the classroom. Discussions. Okay, brainstorming, yeah, we can call it brainstorming again now. It's not un-PC to call it brainstorming, it's back on the agenda now. Okay, it used to be called mind mapping. Okay, visual demonstrations, actually demonstrating how to adjust an antenna to make sure that the VSWR is correct. Okay, team teaching, obviously Alison and I are both delivering this session this morning, and that helps keep your interest, hopefully, okay, in that you're not just listening to me waffling on for 45 minutes where we break the session up. Okay, we get students to actually do things. What I want you to do for next week is I want you to go home and just prepare a couple of slides on a particular topic and come back next week and we'll have a quick chat about them. Actually get the students involved in the lesson. Practical tasks. Okay, I've shown you how to adjust an antenna to get the VSWR correct. Now have a go. Obviously mix and match, we use lots of these maybe in one session. Okay, videos can be really good. Okay, when you don't have the equipment available to actually demonstrate something, nothing works better than a video of somebody else doing it. And again, it breaks up listening to one person all the time. Role playing. Now this is a little bit of a controversial one. People don't like role playing. I'm going to show you a video shortly, okay, of role playing at its best in amateur radio. Okay, I'm really, really proud of this one. And it's not us, it's one of the teams of delegates. Okay, now I was actually going to go through and give you an example of one of our tools, okay, but unfortunately time has beaten us. So, but you can actually have a look at that, and if you come on our next course, which is in Workshop in about 3 weeks' time, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks' time, 18th of November, then you can come and have a go at this and see what it's all about. Finally, okay, we show this diagram, okay. This is based on research that's been conducted over many years, okay, and it actually highlights the effectiveness of different delivery methods. And unfortunately, you can see that lecturing is right at the top there, okay, less than 10% effective lecturing.
So in other words, you'll have forgotten all about
everything.
this.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the team teaching will have helped.
Yeah.
But as you get further down that triangle with those different teaching methods, they become more and more effective. And right at the bottom is students teaching each other. Okay? Students learn best when they're actually working with another student, and you've got one student saying, no, that's not right, you do it this way, you do it that way. Well, what happens if you do it this way? And you get students involved in it. And that's where the most of your learning takes place, is getting your students involved in it.
Right, the next part of the session we do is about lesson planning, and it's we explain the need and the importance in order to plan lessons, because if somebody else is, if you plan a lesson, then you've got that lesson for the following time you do the course, and also if you're not available and you need to do this particular lesson, somebody else can take your lesson plan, find the resources, etc., that you've said you needed, and then deliver it themselves. So that's why we say that it's really important to have lesson plans, and we give you the skills there to plan a lesson. And then they're shown an example, which I'll show you in a minute. And then they, in the afternoon, when it's a more practical session, they actually have a go at drawing up a lesson plan for themselves. So they've got something there. So this was a lesson plan that Paul developed, but it's got the main sort of principles of lessoning, i.e. the title of the lesson, the students that are going to take part in the lesson and their backgrounds, because that can help you. You will be teaching differently if you're teaching to a group of, say, 5 teenagers than you would to 5 people that perhaps are more interested. So this one we've done teenagers and their backgrounds, if they've got any special needs there. That's really helpful. As I say, if somebody else has to take over your lesson for that, then they know what special needs are required. Any problems? Well, in this case, we've put down that they're sort of teenagers, early teens, and they're distracted by mobile phones, that sort of thing. Learning outcomes are really important. What do you want the students to learn at the end of the lesson? So you've got to be really clear on that so that you're able to teach to that. So that's the first part of your lesson plan. The next part is, what are you going to do in the lesson? And it's good to put times in there so that you can sort of look at your watch and think, oh, I've run over here, so I've got to speed up with this bit. So a little bit about, so one side is what the teacher is doing. This part is what the teacher's doing, and then this part is what we're expecting the students to be doing. I'm no good with technology. The red one.
Yeah.
Right,
Just
okay.
don't shine it in anybody's face.
No, I won't. The resources, that's really important, because it's no good getting up to, you've got to think about the resources beforehand, because there's no point in going to a lesson when you're doing something on Ohm's law and, oh, I haven't got the resistors or I haven't got the LEDs, so you need to have that. And then, how are we actually going to check for understanding? How are we going to assess the students there? And it gives a few examples on that. Quickly going to the next part. Right, then we have lunch, which is important, and then we go on to talking about feedback, reflection, and observation. So feedback is provided by the students. So as I am doing this lecture here, I'm watching to see your reactions, see whether you're engaged and listening.
That's one of the benefits of team teaching, is because you can actually be delivering, and the person that you're actually team teaching with can be doing the observation of the class, and that really, really does pay big benefits.
Because you look to see if perhaps there's a blank face, and that the other person could go up and say, are you okay, do you understand? And perhaps explain it in a different way. Feedback is provided by the students when asked for, like questionnaires. And as Derek said earlier, the course that you went on in Tamworth will be totally different to the course that we'll do in Worksop, because we read and listen to the feedback that we get and change things. It's important to do that. It's important not to think, oh, I'm brilliant at this, I don't need to do any changes. You have to take an account of your the students that or the delegates that you've got. I talked a little bit about reading the signs blank. My daughter Rebecca is in the audience, and I'm going to tell you this, and she's going to get very embarrassed. Was it 2010 we did the foundation course? I did the course because Rebecca wanted to do it, and I thought, oh, well, I'm the only one in the family then that isn't going to be a radio ham, so I took the course. No pressure. So we sat there, and it was a very good friend who was talking about antennas, and Rebecca was where you were sitting, and he was talking about antennas, and I was sitting next to Rebecca. She wasn't falling asleep, but she was doodling the whole time. I'm thinking, oh, Rebecca, how embarrassing doing that.
This was better, she's a teacher.
Yeah, I know. But actually, when it came to the exam, that was her way of, this is her way of remembering, you see. So when it came to the exam, she got all the questions right on antennas and feeders. So did I as well. But it was just really embarrassing because she was on the front row doodling, and I was thinking, this poor friend of ours probably is thinking, oh, goodness me, she's not paying attention at all. I'm really bored. She's really bored. But actually, it was her way of remembering. So, yeah, you do read the signs, but also you have to be careful, because some people actually use doodling and whatever to concentrate, yes. Then we talk about self-reflection. That's where you're looking at yourself and your teaching. There's always a good teacher always says, oh, yeah, I could have done that a little bit better. I could do that by. If you think you're brilliant, then really, there's
No hope.
Yeah, yeah. So you think about what went well in the lesson, because there will be things in the lesson that went really well, but also what can be improved. So it could be that the chap over there was having a little sleep.
Wake up, Paul! Wake up!
Yeah. So what could I do to engage him? I'll have to find out what his learning style is and make sure that he's more involved. Okay. Sorry?
I think you've cracked it already in his
Then we talk about peer observation. This is where you ask somebody from your team to come and sit in and look at your lesson and give you feedback privately. So they're not going to stand up afterwards and go, "Alison, you are rubbish," or "Alison, you are absolutely amazing." You could, So you do that in private. But talk about how so that you can improve your teaching. Sorry. And then also, importantly as well, how to nurture and support new trainers and do that sensitively, so that you're not going to do a really... You're there as an encourager to a new trainer, because after all, we're all volunteers doing this, aren't we? So you're not going to sort of... and if we were talking about... I was talking about this to somebody today. We are volunteers, so it's important that you... and you probably won't have had a lot of experience at standing up the front. You won't believe, well, perhaps you will. I teach little children, and I hate doing this. In fact, I nearly got out of it this morning because they couldn't find my badge, so I was all ready to go home here. I'm just really, really nervous about doing this. So if the first time I did it, Derek had said, "Oh, Alison, you did this, and this wrong. Would I want to do it again?" No. So you've got to nurture and support your students. Sorry, your new trainers. I think that's... and show them how to use the equipment. Yeah.
I've just noticed, actually, you're famous.
Actually, I'll sit down now because I'm not doing any more. What?
That is you. Right. One of the most important parts of the afternoon, and the most fun part of the afternoon at the end of the day, is the actual teaching workshop. This is where we give the delegates the opportunity to actually have a crack at putting some of the things they've discovered maybe during the morning into practice and come up with what we call a mini teach in the industry. Okay, it's a little 5-minute presentation on a particular subject. Now, back in the early days, we used to let you pick your own subject. But these days we've got a set number of ones to do, because some groups find it really difficult to come up with an idea, and they spend most of the 45 minutes trying to work out what they're actually going to present. So we've tried to circumvent that one now. But what we do now is, and this is where it's probably majorly changed from the previous courses that we run, we tie this now with the feedback, and everybody observes everybody else as a peer mentor, as a peer observer. We give our feedback, the students give their feedback on each of the talks, and we also give you the opportunity to do a reflection on your own talk as well. And that comes up with some really interesting interesting thoughts. So far, we've not had anybody that said I was brilliant, which is that means we've succeeded. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video. Now, this came from our Norwich group. Okay. You in this one? Yeah, oh yeah, you are, yeah. Right. Now, I love this video, okay? I think this video is absolutely brilliant, okay? Let's just run it, actually, and just have a look. This was a 5-minute mini teach on, what was it on? Propagation, wasn't it? Oh, no, it was how... Receivers, that was it. This is now this is role playing. Just in case you ever thought there's no way you could role play radio, this is role playing radio.
Okay, everybody. We're here students, we're here to teach you about the receiver and find out how much you know. And as you know, the receiver's made up of lots of building blocks, which you see in front of you. Audio amplifier, tuner and RF amplifier, loudspeaker, antenna and detector.
Speakers over there.
They're not in the right order. So can you help us get them back in the right order? And you should know what they do, but if you don't know what they do, you can ask them questions to see exactly what each of them do. So can we start? What do we need first in a receiver? What's the first main thing that you need? Yes. We need the antenna. Okay, so where does the antenna go? On the side. So can the antenna come over here? Remember, if you're not sure about what any block does, you can ask. What comes after the antenna? You.
The tuner and the RF amplifier.
Sure?
Yep.
Got a phone friend? So we've got the tuner and the RF amplifier antenna. Is it right? Yeah. Okay, so what comes after? Is it already amplified? Is that right? No? What comes next after the tuner and RF amplifier? Detector. Can the detector go over here, please? Now, after the detector, what do we need next? We need the speaker or the audio amplifier? Audio amplifier. So they're in the right place. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So we've now got our receiver. Is that correct? So we've got the antenna, we've got the tuner and RF amplifier, the detector, the audio amplifier, and the loudspeaker. But how do they work together? We'll start with you, antenna.
I'm the aerial, the antenna, which receives all the signals in the universe completely mixed up and jumbled up and passed along to the
Tuner and RF amplifier. I take all the signals in the universe and select the wanted signal by discarding all the unwanted signals and hand them to
the detector. It's my job to get the audio out of the radio signal. At the moment it's embedded in carrier, so I take the signal and I discard the carrier and I pass it to the audio amplifier.
I am the audio amplifier. I take the demodulated signal and I pass it across, having amplified it at some force, to the speaker.
I am the loudspeaker, and the message is, train the trainer.
About any element of these components, even though we work in a very low budget, they do work. Every one of them works. Any questions?
The loudspeaker's good,
Mini teach I've seen so far. That is really, really good. And it's using a pencil case and some pens to role play how a receiver works, but it just sums up exactly how a receiver works. It's
I'm not technical and I understood it.
I hasten to add, actually, in that video, right at the beginning of that video, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a young lass in that audience, wasn't there? That was, how old was she? 12, 13, and she teaches on a foundation course. Yeah. I was blown away with that course. It was a really good course. That, I mean, all the courses that we've run are really good, but to actually get a 12, 13-year-old young person actually delivering on a foundation course, and she was so enthusiastic, it was unbelievable. Right, after we've done that, we very quickly, and we don't spend an awful lot of time looking at practical assessments, because at the end of the day, there's not an awful lot in terms of delivery that's going to go on in the practical sessions. So we just basically go through the practical sessions and confirm what the rules are regarding the running of them and things like that. But there's not an awful lot. We don't spend an awful lot of time on that these days, because not really in the teaching side of things. Right, where to now? Well, as you've probably heard us saying several times during this session, okay, feedback from these delegates that attend these courses help us to develop train the trainers, and it is constantly changing, okay? And if you've got an opportunity to get back to a train the trainers, I'd really encourage you to do another train the trainers. If it's like 12 or 18 months since you've done one and there's one that comes nearby, have a go at the new one. Well, not say new one, but the developed one, because it is actually constantly changing. And that's the way our lessons should be at the end of the day. I'm teaching exactly the same course at Southport College that I've been teaching for 4 years. There's nothing in that course which is the same as what I started delivering 4 years ago. It's just constantly developing. And it's not always constantly developing because technology's changed and things like that. It's the students. The students give me the information I need to be able to change and modify that course. The question is, would your club like to host a Train the Trainers? We've got a budget for 5 Train the Trainers a year. We've got 2 booked for next year. I think it's 2 booked. Yeah, 2 provisionally for next year. So we're still looking for another 3 for next year. We're fully booked for this year. And the other thing is, could there be a Train the Trainers 2? Who knows? Watch this space. It's something we're maybe looking at for the future, but we haven't really put some meat on the bone yet. Woo, well, you'll have to watch this space. That's what we're looking at the moment, because I'm sure at the end of the day that this course is a really good introduction to how you deliver courses. So what we're thinking about now is how can we take this and maybe start going around the country again and delivering something which may be even more useful to those people who've been training for a little while. But as I say, it's early days and we're just looking at it at the moment.
Originally, the brief down from RSGB was for a 2-day course, and we soon realised from feedback that people wouldn't do a 2-day course. They wanted a 1-day course. So we culled a lot of material out of the original course structure and boiled it down to stuff we thought was essential. So actually, we've got a host of stuff we would actually really like to give you already.
Yeah. Right, we've got a couple of, how long have we got?
Oh, we've got 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes. Yeah. Before I just read this out, I was wondering if any of the people that have actually been to a Train the Trainers would maybe like to rubbish us and tell everybody how crap we are, or whether you'd like to sort of stand up and maybe give us a couple of words at all.
I did the original type course with Alan Betts and somebody else, I can't remember the other chap's name, at Brookston.
Right.
Some years ago.
Brian Ray.
About 12 years ago? Yeah, getting
Brian.
close to that. And I have to say, I didn't get anything out of it in terms of being able to teach.
Right.
So you're doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned. Having said all that, with the risk of having a good laugh at me, I'm a fully qualified GIT, Ground Instructors Techniques course with the Royal Air Force.
Right.
I have 3 tours on teaching or instructing, whatever you want to call it, depending on the type of delivery you need. But yeah, and I got really very little out of it. So I think what you're doing now.
Are you going to be joining us at workshop?
I'm not. No,
Right.
unfortunately, I won't get back from Yorkshire until the day before.
Right, okay.
Or a couple of days before. So I did look at the idea and thought, no, we should have time for it.
Maybe some.
To come on the course, haven't
Yeah, we
as
did,
well?
actually. Yeah.
Who, not to Ofsted us, obviously, but and he said he got a lot out of it, didn't he?
Yeah, that was Cheltenham.
That was Cheltenham.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only other comment I'd make, if I may,
Yeah.
is whereas I totally agree, my wife was a primary teacher, so I know where you're coming from on lesson plans and stuff like that, who have been up to there with developing their own. But the only thing that worries me slightly about that is length of time some of the lessons appear to take. Now in my local club in Peterborough, we managed to do a foundation course in 2 days.
Yeah.
Would you really be able to do it in 2 days?
One of the things that we do.
It took to deliver a
Yeah.
back resistors using multimeter.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we do look at on Train the Trainers as well, and this is something else I need to speak to Paul about this weekend, but we also, our club runs something called the Brickworks project, which is unashamedly based on something that Essex AMS do. So we have to give these guys the credit at the end of the day, but we do something called the Brickworks project, which is, we believe that most of the learning takes place in the foundation course. So we actually load most of our learning, and this is not a Train the Trainers thought, this is my personal view. We load most of the learning after the foundation course. We see the foundation course as the jumping off point, and the actual what happens in the next 12 months after that, that's where all the learning takes place at the end of the day, that makes people a radio ham. That's not to decry anybody that thinks, you know, we need to preload the foundation, but different people have different ways of looking at it. So, you know, that's one way.
The main instructor, I go and help at Peterborough, but the main instructor always wanders off topic. So your lesson plan idea is very applicable.
Yeah.
If only to keep him on.
Absolutely. And it might...
You know, he'll start bringing in stuff into the foundation, which is actually intermediate.
Yeah.
Which is actually advanced, because he's forgotten where it all...
Yeah. And it might seem over the top to be doing lesson plans for a foundation course where you've got 3 or 4 candidates, but it really does help you to actually plan what you're going to do. As you say, keep yourself on topic and things like that. Now, I've got 4 minutes left. I'm being flagged. Sorry.
The hidden curriculum, lovely that you've got a special needs expert, someone with special needs expertise on it. We're finding in Southwest Scotland, where I am, and I'm not a trainer, I'm someone who supports and acts as a cheerleader for individual candidates sometimes, you know, you can do it. There are numbers of individuals who have been failed, I won't say who have been failed by the formal education system, and there are underlying issues of the hidden curriculum that needs to be addressed to pass various amateur radio exams. And just that's something to be, because it's a very special needs when you've got something that's technical, but also hands-on, and will lure in people who might be very hands-on kind of people, but who have been seriously failed by the system, however many years ago. And dealing with that special need is any kind of materials, equipment, ideas, brainstorming, you know, that's the whole specialist area. I'll give you some more later.
Just lending my voice to
Yeah.
what I saw. So I was at the Norwich, which I think was it the 3rd one?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
If you're observing me, I was sitting at the front, arms folded, going, yeah, tell me something I don't know, for the first half an hour. And then I suddenly realised that actually there's a lot I didn't know. I've been teaching foundation for 5 years, and actually just working as a lecturer at a local college. But what you told me about the different learning styles, VARC, I didn't see VARK on there.
Yeah, we simplified it, yeah.
That taught me a lot, and now we train with videos, we train with audio, as well as handouts. We're steering away from chalk and talk.
Yeah.
So we got a lot from that. And the only challenge is getting the trainers that have been training for 20 years to come along to train the trainers and learn new ways of doing it. Very good.
Right, I appreciate there's some more questions. I mean, we're quite happy to take questions later on, but I've got a minute left and I do just want to read this out. Now, this is completely and utterly a surprise to us. I only found out about this morning. This was a letter that appeared in this month's Radcom. Okay. Saturday the 2nd of September was a glorious sunny day in Loch Lomond, where 25 or so Scottish hams came together to be trained by 4 people from the RSGB Train the Trainers team. We began at 9:15 and finished at 5 p.m, and not once did I nod off. Well, there's a success straight away. The material was well presented, with great hints and tips along the way from teachers that care and happily share their information. Of course, it wasn't all perfect. We're radio amateurs, and hey, technology often plays up. But wow. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the day and learnt much. So thanks to the RSGB. I was grateful to benefit from this RSGB event and hope that this great resource and the RSGB will continue to be well promoted around the UK. Okay, I must away. I've got some foundation lesson plans to write up, thanks Ali, and to put into practice. Completely unsolicited, okay, but that's the sort of feedback that we generally do get for this. So I would encourage you, if you haven't had one of these in your area, maybe consider actually hosting one next year, possibly.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Derek.
Available.
Yes, yeah.